All right, welcome to the fourth edition of Legacy Spotlight, Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight podcast with two of my favorite people, not just coaches, but two of my favorite people, guys I've grown up with in my young adulthood. I admire these two guys. I have head coach Loren Johnson of Highland Springs football and basketball head coach Troy Mans of LC Bird. I really feel like both you guys, we're brothers, we're friends. So this is a conversation, but I want to let people know about what you both do and how you got to the points in your career in which you consider two of the best coaches in your respective field. I've seen both you guys climb to that journey, but at the same time, I know there's a lot more to it. People see the state championships, the conference championships, the guys you put in college. But I want to talk today about how you got to that point, your insight, some of the challenges you face. So I'll start with you, Loren. How did you even get to Virginia Tech to play cornerback? Before you even got into coaching, how did you get to Virginia Tech and become Loren Johnson, the guy that made the play against Miami?
So you start from the beginning. You play high school football in South Florida. Ultimate dream is to play for a school in Florida. And at the time, it was only three schools. So it was Florida, Florida State, and University of Miami. So the whole situation with Dennis Erickson went down, not recruited by University of Miami at all. Went to camp at Florida State. They had this guy named Peter Ward that they were going to recruit. I was like, who is Peter Ward? North Florida and South Florida, two different places. So you're like, who is Peter Ward? Then you find out real fast who Peter Ward is. And then Florida never even entertained the thought of me playing there. So Virginia Tech was playing Miami in the Orange Bowl. The score was like 2-0 at halftime or 2-7 at halftime. And that weekend, that Friday or Thursday or Friday, they came by the school and recruited the school. Todd Grantham said, hey, we want to spend a little time with this kid. So we talked, had a conversation, invited me to the game. I didn't go to the game, but I did watch the game on TV because I couldn't get tickets. I wasn't a Miami recruit at the time. So I watched the game on TV, and then there was this wild man on the sideline named Phil Almation. So you put the combination of the two together. I started asking questions about Phil Almation, and my mentor, Dwayne Joseph, who works for the Las Vegas Raiders, he was coached by Phil Almation at Syracuse. So the more and more I started asking questions about him, learn about Phil Almation a little bit, learn about the Virginia Tech program, then they started recruiting me. Then it kind of went to a point, it came down to it. I took my 5 visits to Indiana, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, and NC State. It came down to Indiana and Virginia Tech. And I really thought I was going to Indiana, but my host at Indiana was not the best. There were some guys there that were on campus, older guys, that said, hey man, pick a school that you want to go to, pick a school that you think is great, pick a school that fits you. And when he was saying that, I was thinking Virginia Tech in my head. But when I went to Virginia Tech, and I've said this to numerous people, my host was Torian Gray, but I didn't spend a day with Torian Gray. My time was spent with Sean Sullivan, Cornelius White, Dorian Bryant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple other people. But that's who I spent the majority of my time with.
Hold on. Where was T. Gray at, man?
I didn't even know. He was gone. He was out there.
So T. Gray was your host and didn't even host you?
Nah. Cornelius White, Sean Sullivan, A-Lane. Like, Lover's Lane took care of me. I mean, took me through the dorms. Sean Sullivan took me out. I mean, Tori was nowhere to be around. Me and Cornelius White played the Sega Genesis all night. I mean, so I felt at home. And then the other thing was I took my visit on graduation weekend. So Maurice DeShazo graduated, and when I was at practice, ran by me. He was graduating. That's the first time up close I had met somebody that, really the second time I met somebody that graduated from college, black male. You know what I mean? So my brother didn't, my father didn't, and kind of the extended people that played football in my area, I knew of them, but I didn't know them. So Maurice came by, dapped me up. What's up? Kim Brown graduated that weekend. And then Freeman graduated that weekend. Antonio Freeman, if I'm not mistaken. So those three guys either had graduated or close. People were talking about them, went to practice, had a good time. And then when I left, I knew, that's where I wanted to go to school at. So that was kind of the deal. But it did come down to Indiana and West Virginia. Virginia Tech.
And Troy, I've interviewed you both when I wrote for 247, but again, if you could just share your journey to Virginia Tech, because yours is a remarkable one, because you had a little bit of adversity, different ways that you got to Virginia Tech. It wasn't just you came out and chose them. How'd you end up playing guard at Virginia Tech?
Well, it's funny because I didn't want to go to Tech out of high school because it was so close to home. So they may have called a few times. In the high school I went to, they had won a state championship a few years before. So there was a huge legacy at our school. Like, they was ranked like second or third in the country. And so everybody that went to our high school played college basketball. Now, I knew I was going to go.
Your high school is
Patrick Henry High School.
Patrick Henry, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like Curtis Blair, who's an NBA ref, he ended up playing with the Rockets for a little bit. George Lynch went as well. Bernard Basham got a little time in the NFL and the NBA, I believe. But I knew I was going to play college basketball. But the reason I didn't really care about the recruiting process is because I wanted to win the state championship. That's the truth. We had played the semifinals, and I had missed some free throws late in the game. And when I came back, you know how teammates do. Everybody got pointed fingers. Everybody blamed me. And it was the first time I had dealt with, adversity on the court. And, my dad at the time, I tried to hide in my room. I was like, man, I ain't going out there. Everybody talking about me. He made me go out. Now, growing up in Roanoke, I grew up at a place called Eureka Park. And Eureka Park was everything to me. It taught me everything about basketball. It taught me about everything about being a man. Anything you wanted, you could get at Eureka Park. Anything that was going on in the world was going on at Eureka Park. So my dad made me go out. And when I went out, I had to take my lumps in terms of the way people treated me. But I learned a very valuable lesson in that. So I took my game to another level. I worked every single day that summer. So if I was ever in that position again, I would be successful. And we were ranked number 1 in the state for 2 years in a row. We were ranked nationally. And so September comes, school starts. And I'm being recruited by, at this time, VCU is in the CAA, East Carolina's in the CAA, the Colonial Athletic Association, Richmond. Most of the Virginia schools are in the Colonial Athletic Association. So I was recruited by most of those schools. And I gone to Tech. My team went to Tech for a team camp, and I played well. And they started talking to me, but I had spent so much time at Tech in terms of just driving up there because it was so close. It's 45 minutes away, 30 minutes away. Just go up there and play pickup. So wasn't that interested in it. And again, I wanted to redeem myself, I guess is what you want to call it. So, and it's so funny how recruiting has changed now as opposed to how it was then. I initially committed to Hampton out of high school.
Hampton University?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happened was this. I had gotten offers from different schools, maybe UNC Wilmington, East Tennessee State, those schools. Didn't care. So when I went to visit Hampton, my family all went to all Black colleges. My dad went to Bluefield. My mom went to Tennessee State. All her brothers and sisters went to Hampton, Howard. So the HBCU thing was a big deal in my family. So when Hampton offered, they were a Division II school, but I didn't care. So I was going. But the thing with Hampton was they were transitioning from Division II to Division I.
Yeah.
So now what happened, there's a 2-year, I think, probationary period. And I was recruited by a guy named Bobby Dandridge, who was an NBA great with the Bullets back in the day.
Yes, he was.
And the only reason I didn't go there, my dad was like, man, you're just going to be playing games. There's no chance of going to the NCAA tournament. There's no chance of going to the CIAA tournament. So I committed, and then I had to kind of back out of it. So I took another visit to George Mason. And I'll be honest, my dad picked my school for me. And he did it based on people. And when Coach Nestor, who was the coach at the time, he was an assistant at Wake Forest. Now, I think it just got released. He based everything on relationships. And Coach Nestor and his staff were the greatest group of people. They treated me so well that Everybody else was cut out. Now remember, this is September. My senior year, I blow up. I've grown some. I've become more athletic. I win every award you can get besides Player of the Year in the state. I'm on every all first team, everything. I'm ranked nationally. And so now I'm getting calls for me to go to Fort Union because, you know, a lot of colleges are still calling me like, look, man, if you go prep a year, you can play a little bit higher. So I have a good friend, Merle Coles, and I have really good friends, and Harold Dean was going to go there as well. So I was going to be there. And right before graduation, my father passed away. Now, again, this is different from that. Ain't no internet, okay? So you got to go to a newspaper if you want to know what's going on with different schools. So when that happened, it wasn't like parents today that are overly involved with sports like they should be. Then during that time, if the coach said something, the parents said, do what the coach said. Now, my mom ain't know about recruiting, and there was so much stuff going on at one time. She really liked Coach Nestor, so she said, you know what, let's just take what we got. So I went to George Mason, and I loved my experience there at George Mason with Coach Nestor. Well, they got fired the next year, and Paul Westhead came. And Paul Westhead came with the Loyola Marymount teams, and I had a great freshman season. I was pretty good. I was all rookie team. I was pretty good. And when Coach Westhead came, I was trying to buy in, but it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And it's not his fault. I mean, it just doesn't work. Sometimes those situations don't work themselves out. And so I was going to transfer to Old Dominion. Oliver Purnell was the coach at Old Dominion. And it was easy for me because I'm being recruited by other schools. One of my assistant coaches that was at George Mason went to Old Dominion. And I was really good friends with a guy named Tick Price, who's the coach at Lamar right now. So I was done. By February, I knew I was going to transfer to Old Dominion. Well, I get a call in April. Oliver Purnell is leaving Old Dominion, and he is going to Dayton. Now, I hadn't really talked. The only other school I really talked to was VCU at this time. So my high school coach calls Coach Foster at Tech, and they offer me right there. So I go on a visit. It's a one-day visit. I don't need to go for all the stuff because I've been there before.
That's not Bud, guys. That's not Bud Foster.
I'm sorry. Bill Foster. Bill Foster.
You know, people
got to clarify that. You got to clarify that.
My bad. So I'm up there with Bill Foster, and it worked out. It was great. It was a great experience. So that's that.
Yeah. So LJ, you guys both play sports at Tech. You both has great career. I was there. I saw both of you had great career. Loren, after that, talk about what happened next, pro career, NFL Europe, arena football, and then how in the world did you get into coaching? So let's talk about your post-Tech career, and then how did you get into coaching?
All right, so hopefully I'm not jumping the ball here, but I got to go back into Virginia Tech for a second.
That's fine.
All right, here we go. So you talk, Troy's on this call with us. It is because of Troy that I pushed myself in the weight room in between my sophomore and junior year. Troy was a 300-pound bencher and played point guard, and I like that did not sit well with me at all. It did not sit well with me, right? I mean, just so you talking about you got to go into it. So the way everybody that I was associated with at Virginia Tech made me grow, whether they knew it or not. Like Troy was in the weight room, like he was. You know what I'm saying? An Iron Man in the weight room as a point guard. You understand?
Strong. He was strong. Yeah, I remember that.
So you got to think about that. And then I had a DB coach was like, if you don't bench 300, you can't play. And I was like, well, the point guard for basketball bench 300. Like, if I don't get in there, I'm like some doo-doo. You understand where I'm coming from? So Troy pushed me in the weight room, right? You know, he had other guys push you in different areas. So I had to throw that in there before we move on to like post.
No, it's your show. It's about you and Troy today, man. Talk about what you want.
We you know, people talk about our basketball program at Virginia Tech. Like those guys, Ace Custis, Troy,
Sean Good,
hey, Eddie Lucas on the tail end after Troy left. Like those guys were workers, man. You understand where I'm coming from? And I think so that we're going to talk about culture a little bit later on, but some of those things are what I base our culture on in Highland Springs right now. You understand where I'm coming from? just everybody being together, everybody pushing each other, everybody making each other better. And I don't know if basketball felt that from football at all, but I know I felt it from basketball. You understand?
Well, what we felt from you guys, because I had at one summer I had to lift with all the football guys because I was a little bit stronger than everybody else, and the attention that you guys got from being such a great football team pushed us because we wanted that same attention in basketball. So we like, yo, they going to this bowl and that bowl, man. We gotta do better. We gotta perform.
Right.
Because these guys are setting the standard. And you talk about culture. When you have a program, everybody is rooting for each other. It don't matter the sport.
Right.
And it's funny you mentioned that. And I was gonna tell Vic this before we got on. We won a state championship in 2017. And you know, when you win your first state championship as a coach, I mean, things you always remember. The thing that jumped out to me, I'm coming on the court. Now, I don't know how about football, but everything is on time. So if they say it's gonna start at 2 o'clock, it don't matter if there's a 40-minute wait in between, it's gonna start at 2 o'clock.
Right.
And I hate the pregame warm-ups. I'm poking out. And I finally walk out there, and I don't really get nervous. I actually get nervous after the games. That's kind of weird. I don't get nervous before. I'm calm before the game. The game, I'm good. The first person I see when I walk on that court, Vic, is LJ. And correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all had already won one, right?
Yeah, that was in 2017. That was our third one.
So I walk up. So as I'm coming around the corner of the Siegel Center, I'm ready. I'm like, all right, let's go and get this going. The first person I see when I step on that court is LJ. He said, yo, let's go. Let's get it. And I was like, man, come on, man. And I appreciated that. I was like, man, because I was at I had gone to the state championship games when he had won. I know he hadn't seen me and so many people there, but I'm rooting for him. And when you are part of a program, that never ends.
Never.
That's Virginia Tech. It doesn't matter where we go. It doesn't matter what sports you play. You are always rooting for them. Now, when you're not a part of a program, you're rooting against them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, football is doing well. Man, forget football. No.
Right.
But when you got a winning program, everybody wins, man. Everybody wins.
So that goes back to so Dave Brain was the AD, and they, when we played in the Sugar Bowl, y'all came down and y'all played Tulane when we were down there.
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, to me, that meant everything. Like, we couldn't go to the game, but it was like, okay, they down here, they playing. I mean, the love was just overwhelming. And I think sometimes that's, you talk, we say it's a different generation, but maybe we're in the same generation. I don't know, numbers-wise. I just think that's missing. I think that's a missing ingredient to what's going on in Blacksburg now. And I'll say it, I don't care.
No, that's fine.
I think that's what, in actuality, and I'm not there every day, but I just don't see that all the time, right? And I know, you know, we've climbed up the ladder and we, you know, everything's been placed on a platform, but I think that alone, you know, culture-wise has made us during that period of time, that, you know, mid-90s period of time, what it was. You know, and I think you kind of got the same feeling in the early 2000s. You understand where I'm coming from? And I hope it's the same way now. Vic, you would have to attest to that more than I can, because I don't get that opportunity to be there, because during my season,
I think what has happened with everything, and it's not just Virginia Tech, it's all over, but specifically to Virginia Tech, the culture, they're trying to adjust. They're in transition. I think when you talk about even the basketball program, I like the basketball coach they have there. I love him. Buzz was cool. Buzz was a great coach. But I think Young is a guy that gets it, because he's going to bring in culture. He's already got ACE back. I think when you look at anything in corporate America, you have to remember where you come from in the foundation and build upon that, even if you're a new guy. And I think the football program is starting to get that now, but they've gone through some things where I think they've tried to manufacture slogans and hashtags. And I think that's what makes both you guys great as coaches, is that you both went to programs that had some history and some stuff established, and then you built on it and you evolved to create your own legacy and your own expectations. And that is what is not happening consistently at Virginia Tech with the football program. They're still winning. They got talent, but not in the mindset of, and Andre Davis and Willie Powell and I talked about this, that comes with you know, knowing where you're at and knowing the culture. Like, for example, Troy is from Roanoke, and I am from the 757 Hampton and Newport News, but we both grew up in similar environments. People, you know, unless you go to Virginia Tech, when you go to Roanoke, there's some places in Roanoke you can get dealt with real quick. At the same time, same thing with Dade County. So, like, we all come from environments where many people didn't make it out. So we took that mindset, the life lessons we learned, and then we use it in everything we do now in coaching and building young men. And I think that is what needs to happen at Virginia Tech with the football program, recognizing that you got these guys that you have there. They're good student athletes. They're talented, but what is the identity? I mean, you know, is it the lunch pail? Is it the hard hat? Is it we're going to be a spread, wide open offense? That's why I said I referenced Coach Young at Virginia Tech with the basketball program, because I feel like he's established that even in his first year, because I know when I turn them on, they're going to play hard. They're going to spread the court. They're going to shoot threes, drive and kick. And then off the court, same thing as far as that chemistry and the brotherhood. But Loren, when you talk about coaching and you talk about after Tech, I know you went back to how Troy inspired you. How did you get into coaching? Because I don't know if everyone knows your story, how it just happened. You know what I'm saying?
So for me, after the '98 season and playing in the Music City Bowl, of course, like anybody else, you're a senior, you play 4 years, you play halfway decent, you think you're going to get an opportunity. Well, previous to the Music City Bowl, I kind of sprained or tore my MCL, and, you know, I never ran well when the scouts came, never got invited to the combine, never did any of those things. And when the scouts came for pro day, I didn't run well at all. I think I ran a 4.52, and at my size and my height, that wasn't good enough. So what ended up happening is I went home, maybe thought I would get into somebody's training camp, didn't. You know, they called me back, or I called Christy Vernil, who was the secretary in the front office, asked if there was anything available so I could start my master's, and talked to John Belen. They said I can do the recruiting deal. So I did some recruiting stuff and some mentorship the first year. Worked under Melendez Bird, Dr. Bird. Worked under Melendez for a little bit and helped him in with the mentorship of freshmen when they came in. So I did that, and then I studied at the time special education, because my whole thing was, if you're not coaching, you know, the biggest thing I like to do is I like to start my own school. If I like to start my own charter school, you got to know something about special education, and if you do, you know, you'll be in good shape. Just having that background. Then in the midst of all of that, I was still trying to play football. So what happened was I was going to school. I was working at State Farm, Charles Tilson on Main Street, Blacksburg. He let me work at the State Farm down there for a little bit. And Cornelius White was playing arena football for the Carolina Cobras at the time. So I went all the way back to Cornelius White again. So I called Cornelius, said, hey, man, I'd like to try for the team. He was like, just come down here. So I went down. I had a little program put together, pamphlet, booklet, put together saying all I need is a chance. Went through that whole process, and that was in the spring. So that gave me an opportunity to get in football. I was with the Carolina Cobras for a day, and then I got called to play in NFL Europe after that day. So I had to rush to DC, get a passport, get over to, you know, Germany and play a season. Rewind all the way back to the fall, all right, of 99. That's still in school, fall of 99, doing that whole deal, you know, working with the recruits. You know, they go to the national championship. Every scout that came through, I was trying to talk to them, get involved with them. And the whole outcome of it was going to NFL Europe. Played in NFL Europe, came back. When I came back, sitting in Blacksburg, not in school, and then a guy named Tony Hart. Tony Hart worked for Lower Bartertown High School. He was good friends with Bud Foster. And I guess Tony Hart was asking any older football players that want to be coaches, that are not playing, that you can recommend. And I think Bud Foster recommended my name. And that is how I got into coaching. So the fall of 2000, I started coaching at Lower Bartertown. Still living in the Blacksburg area. just going back and forth. And then spring of 2000, NFL Europe, come back fall of 2000. Fall of 2000, Coach Gentry asked me, fall of 2001, Coach Gentry asked me if I wanted to, work in strength and conditioning. So I was like, yeah, I want to finish my master's from what I started in fall of 99. And I did that, worked on my master's, fell in love with the weight room, the strength and conditioning aspect of it. Got offered a job, with the Chicago Bears, turned it down.
What?
Yeah, man, it was $19,000 to go to Chicago and be the low man on the totem pole in strength and conditioning.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's just, and you know what? I just did what a lot of people do. I heard name first and didn't know the whole story behind it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you look back at it right now and say, man, at 21, 22, I could have been there. You know what I mean? And who knows what the situation would be right now. But that was the first time they offered. They actually came back and offered me a job again, and I didn't take it, which is a whole nother story. But that's kind of how I got into coaching. So moving back and forth, the fall of 2002, I started teaching, and I was still coaching at Lower Bartertot, but I took Brandon Simonis' wife's job at Glenver High School, and I coached girls track at Glenver. They didn't have any football positions available for me. So I coached football at Lower Bartertot, and I coached girls track at Glenver High School. And made that trek every day. And I was living in Salem off of Kimball Avenue. So in Roanoke County, like I was born and raised there. You know what I'm saying? Living life. And then one day I was sitting in my office in Glenver, and a piece of paper was slid under the door. And it was a job opportunity at Dinwiddie High School and Stonewall Jackson in Manassas. And both of them had gone 0-10.
I was there for Stonewall.
Yeah. Dinwiddie had won like the state championship a couple years before.
Yeah,
right?
They did.
So I was like, I'm applying for both. I applied for both. My wife at the time was my girlfriend, and she was working for Lois Bird in academic advising, right? So she was looking for a job in higher ed. I was looking for a job, of course, just coaching. And we drove to Dinwiddie, knew it was right outside of Richmond. That day she interviewed with Richmond, and that day I interviewed at Dinwiddie. Thought I had the job at Dinwiddie. She thought she had the job at Richmond. Neither one of us got those jobs. I ended up getting the job at Stonewall Jackson. She ended up getting the job for a company called SAIC, a defense contract in Northern Virginia. And that's it. That's how I got into it. So, it just kind of fell in my lap. But everything that I was doing strength and conditioning wise, everything I did at Virginia Tech mentoring wise, kind of prepared me to get the job at Stonewall Jackson. And when I took the job at Stonewall Jackson, the wheels just started moving really, really fast. And after being a year at Stonewall Jackson, the Bears offered me a job again, same position. But at the time, and everybody can attest to this, we had put money down on the house. It's 2005. Put money down on the house in Northern Virginia. My wife had a job in Northern Virginia, and then the pay was like, I think it went up $5,000. It was like $24,000. I said, I'm not doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I had a kid named Brian Williams, Chris Garrett. I had, Josh Baird, Damian Thigpen was coming through the pipes. I was like, I'm not leaving these kids to go make $25,000. You know what I'm saying, for the Bears. Now, if I knew they was going to hire head coaches at 32 years old, somebody took the job back there. But who knows that? You know what I mean? Like when I took my visit to Indiana, they were like, you have the opportunity to play both ways. I was like, nobody plays both ways in college until Charles Woodson started doing it.
Charles Woodson, and then while we were in that tech, Ike Charlton did it.
Yeah, like maybe I would have went to Indiana if I would have could see, you know what I'm saying, beyond that. But you live and you learn. And that's how I got into the coaching profession. Just because of Tony Hart wanted me to work. He asked Bud Foster. Bud Foster gave my name, and then the rest is history.
You know, before I get to Troy, I will never forget when you swung by at the time. Me and Shanice, when they're having the kids, we had an apartment in Fairfax, Virginia, by Fair Oaks Mall. And LJ hit me up and said, "Can I come stay with y'all?" I said, "Yeah, man." Came over the house, and he showed me an article that I was talking about him with, about how I prophesized how LJ was a great cornerback, but he had a future in coaching. He was going to be a phenomenal coach. And then shortly thereafter, he took the job at Stonewall, and he mentioned guys like Fig Penn, who went to UCLA, Ryan Williams, who went to Tech, was a record setter there, and then all went on to get drafted by the Cowboys. And then Chris Garrett, who had a great career, went to the CFL after playing at Ohio. You did, and people up here in Northern Virginia, the 703, it's amazing. LJ's impact and legacy up here in Prince William County and even in Northern Virginia, people still talk about him, and young men who are now coaching reference him all the time. So that's why I think we don't realize what God has in store for us when we take these different journeys. And whoever thought, hey, you talk about being at Roanoke and Lower Botetourt and all them places, you being from Miami, like, you know, and it's just amazing, man. I mean, because, you know, college sports or coaching will take you places you never thought you would be. Right. You know, that's just amazing, man. Troy, same question. When you were done with basketball, where'd you coach? How'd you get into coaching? Who had an influence? How did that whole thing come about?
Man, first I'm laughing at LJ talking about he lived in Salem and Glenford. Now I'm from Roanoke in the 90s, 80s, 90s.
Never thought, right?
Could not go out there at nighttime. You could not be there. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. So times change.
Times really change.
Man, my coaching journey is simple, man. I always knew I was gonna be a coach. I knew in my family, I'm in a family full of people who give back. So for me, any success I had on the court, I had to do something in the community to give back. All right, so just public service was a really big deal in my family. So I knew I was going to be a teacher. The only thing was my mom said I cannot be a PE teacher. I cannot come home with a PE degree. I don't know why. She just said I could. So I knew I was going to be a teacher. I knew I was going to be a coach. So when I finished playing at Tech, we had a trip to Europe that summer. And it was god awful. At that point, okay, everybody thinks they're gonna play basketball after college. I don't care what your numbers are. I don't care what your success level is. Everybody in basketball said, "Man, all I'm gonna do is go overseas. I'm gonna play." When we did a trip overseas, man, it was so bad that I was like, "There's no way I'm ever coming back over here." So when I finished playing at Tech, that was it. I was done. I decided I was going to coach. I went to graduate school, got my master's degree in secondary education, and got a job. I guess the most pivotal person in my life as a coach is a coach named George Lancaster from Highland Springs High School. After I graduated, the first job I took was at Highland Springs. I was an assistant coach. And I remember when I was at Mason, we played VCU. This one had Kendrick Warren, who was phenomenal.
Yes, he
Kenny
was.
Harris. Oh, they were so good.
Good.
And they beat us. And as the game is over and people are walking around, Coach Lancaster, who we had played them in the state semifinals, we had beaten them as a senior. He had some positive words to say to me. And, you know, people say things, but you don't know if they really mean them. So he walks on the court and he says, "Hey, man, good game." I think we had 25. And I was a freshman, so I was kind of, you know, building my resume up a little bit. And he was like, "Look, man, if you ever need anything, let me know." And for some reason, I just never forgot. And, you know, you mentioned how God does things we don't realize at the time. So you have job offers, and I had Hampton, Northern Virginia, all over the place. And so I visited Highland Springs, and it was the principal's name was Billy Height. He played running back at Virginia Tech back in the day.
Oh, yeah. But...
And so offered me the job, and I took it. And Coach, he didn't even have a position for me on the staff. And I said, Coach, you ain't got to pay me, man. I'm already broke, so don't worry about it. You know, a little bit of change they was gonna pay me. You know, it don't make no sense. So he would give me gas money. At the time, my first year, I was staying with my godmother in Petersburg. So I was driving from Petersburg to Highland Springs every day. This is before 895 was finished with construction.
Ooh.
And yeah. So, what?
Yeah, that's a hump.
What? Come on. That's 35, 45 minutes. But
Yeah.
he took so much time, man. And all I was a practice dummy. I was the best player that they were about to play. I didn't do any coaching in practice. He would put me with the second team, and I had to play. And I was still in shape, so it wasn't a problem. But then afterwards, man, he would sit down and talk. And he would talk, and he would show me stuff. And he would give me books, and he would be like, you're going to do this, and you're going to be like this. And as time went on, I knew I was going to be a coach. And he didn't have to do that. He could have put me as the assistant girls coach or something, because he was in charge of both programs. But I knew I was going to be a coach. And I just asked him, I said, man, help me. And I was at Highland Springs for 1 year. And I came back home to coach at Patrick Henry. And I thought some things were going to change at Patrick Henry. I was assistant coach for a while. But George Lancaster's played the biggest role in my life as a coach. I talk to him maybe once every 2 weeks about basketball, just about life. And any decisions that I make, I call him first. But he's the reason I've had the success that I've had, because he did not, the way he treated me, he didn't have to do that. He could have, been kind of nasty, because there were people saying when I got there, because I was a tech guy and Billy was a tech guy, that I was going to be his replacement. This is before he had won the state championship. All right. So there was some rumblings, because, he was getting up in age and it was almost time for him to retire. And I was like, Coach, I'll never come after you. And so he could have been real nasty about it. But instead of being real nasty about it, he became my biggest mentor, and he didn't have to do that. And I greatly appreciate him for that. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah. So with coaching, both y'all getting into it, and you guys in the 804 in Richmond, the funny thing about it is, as I mentioned before, you guys went to programs that were good, like they were established. They had a history. LC Bird, more so in football, but even in basketball, there was a history there. LJ, you went to Highland Springs that produced Macho Harris, an All-American DB, went on to Virginia Tech in the NFL, and other guys. Talk about, like, when you get there, the culture you created and how that led to the state championships, because both of you guys are state championship coaches. But I think what happens is, from the outside looking in, you see a guy win a championship or two, or create a culture, and people don't realize what they had to do to create the culture. Now, I coach, I have businesses and programs, so I understand how hard it is to get kids and parents and administration to buy in. But when you talk about that journey for you, LJ, when you got to Highland Springs, after you left Stonewall, which you did a great job, lost in the States, but then you left to go to Highland Springs, what you had to do with the culture and how that eventually led to state championships?
So the first thing is this. Troy didn't tell you, when he was at Highland Springs, it was like Beirut. He tell you that. 'Cause when I got there, it was Beirut. It was the jungle. You know what I mean? And now, I mean, the kids are creative. The kids are great. It was just some neighborhood things. And Troy didn't say that. He didn't say that when he talked. But that's the truth. Because now I'm on I guess this is my 12th year or 13th year. This is my 13th year. So I've seen it. I saw it when Troy was there, like the tail end, and I see it now. So it's changed tremendously. But the first part is this. When I first got the job, I was not accepted by any of the alumni because I wasn't an alumni. You understand where I'm coming from? So that was a task, right? I had to get them to understand who I was, spend a lot of time with them, talking to them, sharing my background. Because at Stonewall Jackson, you went 25 and 25. It was like kissing your sister. You understand what I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we were in that situation. Even par. All right. That was number one. Number two, the night that I was introduced, they gave me a book. The alumni did. it was the 40-year history of Highland Springs football, first edition. So it went from 1940 to 1980. So think about it. I got the job in 2008. They still were holding on to this book from 1940 to 1980, right?
Hey, LJ, hold up. Wasn't Rudy Ward the football coach at some point there?
Yes, Rudy Ward, the AD.
Coach Ward.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he was an AD.
Yeah, so
He's the tech guy too.
well, he went to Appalachian State, but he is a Tech fan. You understand
He
what I'm
loves
saying?
Virginia Tech, man. Yeah.
He loves Virginia Tech. So I'll tell you about that story too, because that has a little bit of a part of me getting into Highland Springs. But so the alumni was number one, just getting them on board. Who is this guy? Where is he coming from? So forth and so on. But Coach Ward saw something in Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright's son played at Penn State. He used to be a football coach at what's the name of it? Garfield.
Yeah, Garfield. Yeah.
So I coached against him, and then Coach Ward knew of me through Coach Kavanaugh and some other people at Virginia Tech. So it kind of all meshed well in Coach Ward's mind. Like he could see stuff that other people couldn't see. So that was number one, getting the alumni to buy in. So I had great administration when I started, but now I'm on my 7th principal, right? Yeah, I'm on my 7th. Okay. Mr. Wright, then Dana Boss, then Takani Hargrove, then co-principals, right? I might be missing one. And then my current principal right now, who played football at Randolph-Macon, Dr. White, right? So I'm on my 7th principal. Okay, so administration has changed tremendously. And when I first got there, replacing the individual that I replaced, I was told by an administrator, a female administrator, that basically I don't have a chance. I'm not gonna make it, right? So that was one of them things, little kick in the butt that persuaded me to do above and beyond. She was always on my back, and not to make me better, but always on my back to try to find a way to get me out, right? Because she felt that a person on the staff from the former staff should have got the job, and he didn't get the job. You know what I mean? So it was a mess. All right. The kids were fighting each other, neighborhoods, like draw the line in the sand. Like, you live on this side of the street, you live on this side of the street. I don't like you because you live on that side of the street, and you don't like me because I live on this side of the street. And when I start asking the kids, why are y'all going back and fight forth? What's the fighting for? Nobody could give me an answer. Alumni told me this is going all the way back to the 70s. I'm like, dude, that's 35 years ago. What are we talking about? And nobody could give me an answer on why they were fighting neighborhoods. So the biggest decision I had to make was probably the hardest decision, even to this day. And I've come to grips with it now, but we had a young man whose brother played at Tennessee. He played running back, probably was going to run for 1,500 yards to 2,000 yards. He was going to be a phenomenal kid, 6'1", 6'2", 205 pounds, probably played Power 5 football without a doubt. The starting quarterback, starting running back, get into a fight in the weight room. Okay? Now, our weight room was probably 600 square feet. I don't know. I mean, people think I'm joking, but
no, I seen it.
Yeah, it's like
I seen it.
All right. So,
Yeah, Harriet Tubman-ish. Yeah.
You got 75 kids in the weight room, and the starting quarterback and starting running back, because they live in 2 different neighborhoods, get into a fight. I have my 3-year-old at the time, who's now 14, standing with me, right, in the weight room. I'm holding his hand, daddy daycare type deal, and weights started flying. Weights, not fist, weights. So I get him out, put him in the office. When I get him in the office, try to get back in the weight room, help the coaches out. I get to the parking lot, and I got cars, people. I mean, they getting ready to go at it, like Battle Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, I didn't have a rule in place that said, this is how we gonna handle it. So I learned as a coach, like, 1, never pigeonhole yourself, and 2, make sure you have some things in place before you even get started. So I said, everybody just leave, get rid. I'm kicking everybody off the team. Well, everybody that was involved, I sat down with their parents, talked to them. When I talked to them, I told them this is what we're going to do to reinstate everybody. If they don't do it, they're not going to play. But this one individual did not do it, and I got rid of him. And when I got rid of him, it was shockwaves throughout the entire community, throughout the entire Highland Springs football community. He don't know what he's doing. He getting rid of the best player. They going to suck. They going to do this. They going to do that. It was bad. But I had to stand my ground on it because I asked him to do something. He didn't do it. And it was at the time, when it was a fight inside the football family, it kind of transcended, or it had ripple effects into the community.
Yeah.
Couldn't have that, right? I couldn't be at practice with my kids and have somebody come try to retaliate for something that happened in the community a couple days ago. So that was the rule that was in place. So that's kind of how we formulated, dealing with the players. Like, it was steadfast, hard, firm rules, and if you don't do it, you gotta go. And we got rid of some really good players. I mean, really, really good players that could have made a difference in winning games, but they would have ate away at the culture that we were trying to build. Then it got back to, at the time when I got there, we didn't have a booster club, so we had to start a booster club, get some parents involved, and I had to tell parents, you could talk to me about anything except playing time for your child. You could talk to me about birthday, you could talk to me about raising money. You could talk to me about how ugly I am. You could talk to me about anything, but you can't talk to me about playing time. I said, because until you come and do my job, you can't, give me advice on how to do it. I said, I don't come to the bank and tell you how to run the bank. Don't come to Highland Springs and tell me how to run football. So that was kind of something that we had to put in place. So some of those things were already there, but we just had to re-emphasize them and put a onus on them early to get people to understand what's going on. And then with the alumni, it was constantly talking to them and constantly asking questions about the history, constantly talking to them about the history, because the history was very important. And then once I finished reading the book, the 40-year history of Highland Springs football, which was a short read, I knew a little bit about the rivalries, the histories, and what people were talking about and what they were doing. And that kind of put us in position to have a better understanding. So they asked about a player's name, and I said, no, I never met him, but I have read about him. He did X, Y, Z, da-da-da-da-da. And they said, whoa, you know the history of what's going on. So, yeah, I wanted to show them that I knew about them losing in state championship games in Annandale. I wanted to show them, I understood them losing games in Hampton. And when I first got there, we couldn't get out of the first round of the playoffs. And that was a thing for the alumni. You can't say you're the best team and you can't get out of the first round of the playoffs. So one year we had to come back and beat Meadowbrook, and then we lost to LC Bird the next year. So we got out of the first round but couldn't get past the second round. Then it was, you can't get past the second round. So anytime an alumni said that, it just kind of drove me more to kind of put our own stamp on the program and do our own thing. So hopefully I answered your question in a roundabout.
Oh, you did. And it's crazy because I'm 43 years old, and I played at the legendary Hampton High for the legendary coach Mike Smith. But I went on to Virginia Tech, arena football, had a little run in the NFL. I do all these things up here in Northern Virginia, but I go home and there's guys at barbershops and guys around the way that are still arguing about the 1976 finals. There are guys from 1994 talking about if Chuck, a.k.a. Allen Iverson, had not gotten locked up, they would have won it. I mean, people in the Highland Springs and Roanoke and in the communities throughout VA and even in Maryland and D.C., they hold on. They are invested. Like, so it was a lot for you to go there. I remember when you went there, and there were people up here, oh, he ain't going to make it. That's Highland Springs. And to look at you now, 4 straight state championships, we're going for 5 last year, is amazing because now the expectations, it's funny, it's the gift and the curse with coaches like you and Troy. You go to these programs, you create these coaches, and the same expectations you create, the environment, now they hold it against you. And they forget when you came there, it wasn't even like that. So Troy, talk about when you got the Bird. Like, what happened? How did you get there? And how do you create a similar culture to what LJ has in Highland Springs?
Well, when I got the Bird, nobody wanted me a Bird. I remember when they had just won, they had just gone and lost in the state championship game. All right. And they brought everybody back except maybe one or two people. And the basketball coach had retired and he became the athletic director. So when they announced that I got the job, you know how people speculate who's going to get it, who should get it.
Yeah.
So my name comes up and they're like, who is he? And at the time I was coaching at Hanover High School. Now, how I got to Hanover was interesting because before I was at Hanover, I was coaching girls at William Fleming High School in Roanoke. Now the principal there asked me to take the girls' job. Cause I used to have like a skill development company, like a personal training company. And I was getting to the point where I had enough clientele to where I almost stopped teaching. And a lot of the girls that I was training played at Fleming. And so the principal came to me and she was like, hey, why don't you come take this girl's job? And they ended up giving it to me. And I said, I'll do it for 2 years because I really wanted to be a head boys basketball coach. All right. And I said, I'll do it for 2 years, but you got to let me get on the boys' side so that I can, eventually become a head coach. Well, they weren't very good. And in 2 years, about the second year, we had won like 15, 16 games, qualified for the regionals, and things were going in the right direction. So I put my letter of resignation in and said, hey, I did my 2 years, let me give it to the boys. And she said, no, I'm not going to accept this. You cannot resign. So I said, I'm out. I'm a very trustworthy person. I mean, if you give me your word, you got to do what you say. Okay, I give you that until you prove otherwise. And so I took the Hanover job. I had never seen them play. I had gone to a job fair, and I used to do interviews just to make sure, just to see what else was out there. Because I wasn't quite settled. And again, I wanted to be a head boys coach. And so I interviewed at Hanover in maybe September. They had offered me a job, and they gave me the boys' job. Now, mind you, I interviewed for 3 hours for this job. They had won 4 games in 2 years.
Good gosh.
3 hours. I mean, I had to bring a PowerPoint presentation and everything. So I took the job, and it's funny, LJ, I think, had just gotten to Highland Springs, and we would play Highland Springs. And we weren't very good. And by my 4th year, I kind of got it going in the right direction. And we're at Highland Springs. See, LJ used to be the DJ during the basketball games and the public announcer. Yeah. So he's sitting beside me, right?
I did not know that.
So during the game, I can hear him. So we playing Highland Springs, and we're trying the best we can, but Highland Springs is Highland Springs. And LJ kind of look at me. He look at the score, and he look at me, and he said, "Hey, man, it's about that time, man." And so I didn't know what he was talking about at first, but he was saying it's about that time to move on. And he was right, because so I eventually got the Bird. Now, when I took the job at Bird, like I was saying, nobody wanted me. I got the Bird. It was the year, I think we had like that hurricane or something. Remember that?
Yep.
2011?
Yep.
So usually you have a week where you prepare for school. We had 1 day. That's it. Yeah, 1 day. So it was a Monday. Tuesday school started. So that Monday, we don't have any power. So I'm driving back and forth from Newport News to Northern Virginia, back to Chesterfield. Now I'm living in Henrico at the time. So it's a 30-minute trek from Henrico to Chesterfield. My principal tells me, she says, we're going to start at 8:30. All right. So I get there around 8:15. The first meeting started at 8 o'clock. So I'm the new teacher walking into this meeting 15 minutes late. Wow. So yeah, think about that. This is the first time we have a new principal I've talked to on the phone. I've never met her face to face. Now she said 8:30. I'm there 8:15. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get here early. The meeting started. She didn't even introduce me to the staff. So I'm like, okay, and I'm just, people are killing me already. I'm trying to have open gyms and nobody shows up.
Whoa.
I have open gym, and I take that back. 3 people showed up. The 3 kids who didn't play at all the previous season showed up. So we working out. I'm like, okay. Now, there was a young man named Robert Johnson who was a phenomenal basketball player. Ended up going to Indiana. And he was there. And he transferred to Benedictine and came back. And that season, remember, I had that same state championship team. The team that went to the state championship that lost to Norfolk. Man, I'm fighting these dudes every single day. And I'm ready for it. I'm like, okay, I'm built for this. Let's do it. And I have people pulling at the kids and people pulling. I had a person in the building have a secret meeting with the team to go against everything I was doing. They were like, yo, he don't know what he doing. He come from Hanover. Not knowing I coach college basketball, none of that other stuff. I'm just from Hanover. Don't listen to him. Y'all should go against him, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm in practice, and usually I play with the kids. And when kids can see you can play a little bit, it gives you, some credibility. Yeah. I tear my knee up, and I have to have microfracture surgery. So I'm coaching the entire season with a knee brace on. I'm in practice. I can't move. I can't do nothing. And it is a horrible experience. So we end up getting upset. We lose to Frank Mason in the regional semifinals, I believe. Regional quarterfinals at the Secret Center. And that summer, some of those guys graduated, some of them didn't. So I cut everybody else that was left. Everybody. I said, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out my way. All right, because it's like they are killing me. And so I bring up the JV team. And I had one or two guys that were there on the varsity who had bought in to what I was selling. And we worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And we won 25 games that next year. And we continued to have success. It just kept building and kept building. And it's funny you mentioned how people don't realize how you began.
Yeah, they don't.
We lost to Henrico 3 years in a row at the same game. I think it was the reason we lost, and it used to be you had to win 3 games to go to regionals. Yeah. Something like that. We would always lose to them to the same game. And we played a double overtime game that was one of the best games I've ever been a part of. And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen because both teams played as well as they could play. It just doesn't bounce your way. And it's funny, we won 17 games this year. And I had people mentioning our team is falling off. And I was like, 17 games, we made it to the regional semifinals. I got 8 sophomores and 1 senior. But we've fallen off. So you got when you're trying to build something, and I did like LJ, I did all my research. I had recruited Tyrese Rice a little bit when I was at Bradford. He probably doesn't remember me calling him at all, but I was familiar with who he was. I was familiar with the other things that took place at Bird. So with the success that they had. So I did my research on it. I just knew given an opportunity, I could do a good job. And that's not me being arrogant. It's the fact that I have been taught by so many good coaches. I mean, I played for 3 coaches at 2 schools in 5 years. So there isn't a style of play that I haven't played. At Tech, we walked the ball up the court. We led the conference in defensive points allowed, like 59 points a game, something like that. But I also played with Paul Westhead, where at one point in the season, we averaged 105 points a game. So I knew I had the pedigree to be a good coach. I just needed the opportunity to do it. But when you are building a program, and it's so funny, I follow what LJ does all the time, and they be kind of mirror each other. Well, he got 4 states, I ain't got 1. But it's simple. It's a very simple answer to how we both have been successful. And he was telling the story about the gangs fighting at Highland Springs, and yeah, I experienced some of that too. But we'll talk about that off camera. What LJ did is what all good programs do. You have to set a standard. What are you going to deal with? This is what I'm going to deal with. This is what I'm not going to deal with. Now, I don't know about football, but every parental conversation we're going to have in basketball is about playing time. They're going to tell you it's not, but it's going to get to that.
Yeah, well,
and it's playing time. Yeah. No, exactly. And you got to shut that down. and you're gonna get flack from people. But I think one of the advantages we have as being players, people have criticized us all of our lives as players. Somebody has said we ain't good. Somebody has said we can't do this, we can't do that. So you took that same determination as an athlete and just put it in the coaching. I got a guy, when I go to there's a Wawa right up the street from my house, older gentleman. And during the season, he's waiting for me when I walk in every morning. And he is telling me what I'm not doing or what I should be doing or what I did. He's critiquing me every single day. So one day he kept telling me I had to do something. You got to do this with the ball. You got to do this with the ball. So we played the game. And I came back the next day. I said, man, what's wrong with you? He said, well, I said, I did what you said. It ain't work. He said, well, hell, why are you listening to me? You the coach. And so my whole point in saying that is, if you're gonna, you have to set a standard for what you want out of your program. And see, I used to go to the same barbershop that LJ went to. He don't know this. And when he got the job, there was a barber in there that was talking about him. And I shut that down. And I was like, you don't understand what you're getting. Because I was there when they were good in 2000, I was there.
Yeah.
And then there was a big drop off. And I said, he's going to turn it around. You just got to give him time. And I ride by the barbershop to see if that barber's still there. After he won the first championship, I rode over to see if he was still there. And he wasn't. But I would love to talk to that guy now and be like, I told you so. All I need was a little bit of time.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no question. And look, everybody know I'm on social media all the time, not just promoting Vicktory Life stuff, but also my colleagues and peers and players. And everyone knows when it comes to, showcasing y'all talents, I'm the biggest advocate. I'm your biggest fan. Like, I mean, I'm always talking about LJ and Troy Mans because I was part of the journey. I've seen what you guys, the work you put in, and I know about those challenges. I didn't know about some of those stories about LJ being a DJ. I ain't know about none of that. I ain't know about none of that. LJ, that's crazy, man. And the thing about it is that I think it's remarkable what you guys have done, and I know you guys aren't done yet. But I do have to ask you, when they're coaching, you guys already touched on it, but I want to let you guys elaborate a little bit more. You talk about coaching and conversations about playing time. Before I ask you about coaching your sons, what is it like, LJ, I'll start with you, when you coach today's athlete, and you talk about the environment both you guys are in and other environments you've been in with the other dynamics, what do you get those guys to do to buy in? Because today's athlete, I always felt we had our challenges. I'm not going to get on our high horse about, we were better or our era was better, but I do think there's different challenges now with social media, people in their ear. I know basketball has a different culture with the trainers and everything like that. But how is it, and what do you do to get those guys in the 804 and Highland Springs area to buy into, obviously winning, but your coach? And also, second question is, who are some of the guys that you've enjoyed? I know you coached a lot of great guys, but who are some of your better players you've coached who bought into that?
So I guess the first part of the question is simply this for me. It's communication, right? So I think the electronics are good, but they're a double-edged sword. And I think they take away from dinner time. They take away from family time. They take away from talk time, right? So we have a coach, Coach Austin. He's from the 757. I think he played at Bethel, to be honest with you. But in Minchville, even if that's, I don't know.
It is. Mitchell's in Newport News. Yeah, it's a
right. Okay, so I'm good with what I'm saying now. But he, when kids get into his car, you gotta take your earbuds out, you gotta turn your phone off, right? And you gotta ride. You gotta have a conversation. He said, if you don't talk, we're gonna listen to the wind blow, right? And what he got out of that is something that I've adopted, is that you just get conversation. You get them talking about something, and when they're talking about that, it opens the doors for other conversations, right? So that's the biggest thing, communicating with the kid. When I played, my coach said, do it, and I just did it, right? Now, one of the big things for me is I just communicate with them. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Now, it's a communistic, democratic party, okay? Meaning simply this. it's going to be my way. I'm going to give you the 2 options I like, and then we're going to do it that way. All right? So you got to choose in between that. So this is a communist party, but it's some democratic ways in it. All right? So you get choices in this thing. So that's kind of where we are in the situation. So we communicate. I tell them, hey, like, I give you a great example. We don't wear pink during October at our school. We just don't. Because I'm asking why. Why do you want to do it? What is your reasoning behind doing it? See, I lost 2 mothers to cancer, and I don't do it, right? Because the NFL, they do it, and because the NFL do it, I'm supposed to do it. I don't think it works like that, right?
Yeah.
Me. So if you can't have a conversation with me about it and explain to me your thoughts and views about it and communicate that with me, not on Twitter, not on Instagram, not on Facebook, not on Snapchat, but have a conversation with me, then you can't do it. The other one is taking a knee. I got a lot of kids. I'm going to take a knee. Tell me why. Just because. That's not good enough for me. So the communication is essential to buy-in our program, because we can talk about why Michael Jordan is the greatest, right? Like most people see it. They see it now, right? But like, we got to have a conversation about it for you to understand. So a lot of times on Mondays, we don't even go to practice. We just talk. Talk about what happened during the weekend. Talk about what happened during the game on Sunday. Talk about what happened in the game on Saturday. We're going through our scout report and doing all that other stuff, but we get into a situation where we don't even go to practice on Mondays because we're talking. We just, come to Jesus meetings, what some people call it, life skills, what other people call it, character development, whatever the situation is, we're having communication. So that's how we get our kids to buy into it. We get them to see it from a different perspective and practice empathy. We do something we call toe the line, or I may call out a scenario, and if that scenario fits you, you step up to the line. So we get them to buy in that way, to understand that they're not the only person going through what they're going through, right? They're not the only person dealing with the things that they dealt with this weekend. They're not the only person that, has to make a tough decision on whether to come to practice or leave practice. You know what I mean? Based on what your family has going on. And then Troy said it earlier, like, there is a standard. Like, people are calling me, asking me, how are your kids dealing with not working out? I don't know, because my kids are working out, right? Like, I don't know what everybody else kids doing, but I have to stop, and it's good. I got a son that's in the house that's playing, 14 years old, 9th grader. Like, he's trying to play varsity football as a sophomore. He is working out, and he's grabbing 3-4 other guys, and they're working out. And then I get videos of other guys working out. So, we communicate, we talk, we explain the process, and then we give them, like I said, choices in the midst of how our standard fits, and then we work from there, because that's our standard. Not doing it individually, they're doing it together as a group. That's the only way you could be successful.
Absolutely.
We learned a little bit of that, in our last game that we played when we lost to Verona. You win 40 in a row, but the one that matters, are the ones in the playoffs. So, those things kind of sow a seed for our players. Now, in terms of guys that have bought into it, it's so many of them. Like, me and Troy jokingly talk about, Highland Springs being Beirut. Like, we don't have those issues anymore. And I really think a large part of it is how we handle ourselves as football players, because, athletes are magnets, in a school. And for us, the success that we've had football-wise has magnetized positive, energy in our building.
Very similar to what happened with TC Williams when they integrated.
Absolutely.
When those guys bought into integration, they won those championships. The community in Alexandria changed because the guys that played ball were the stars of that community, and people bought in. So with those guys you coach, congratulations on having 2 guys get drafted over the weekend, this past weekend. 2 guys, one guy went in the first round. Yeah. So, Wallace and all those guys, are there anybody, Greg Dortch, or some other guys you want to highlight that, you coach that are talented? I know you don't want to separate people.
Well, I'm gonna give you a couple names. The first one is DJ Johnson. All right. So DJ played quarterback. So we won the first state champ. So 13, 12, 11, and 10. He was a 4-year starter, all right, at quarterback. And real talk, where we were as a team then, we weren't as polished as we are now. So it wasn't like a tremendous amount of help. Like he had some guys in places that can do some things, but there were times when he was running around for his life. You know what I mean? And being a freshman quarterback at Highland Springs, like I got a lot of flack about that. How you gonna play this freshman? Well, the junior that should be the starter felt like doing 2 days he should go school shopping. So, I mean, what do you want me to do, right? that doesn't fit what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna play this freshman who's been here every day and done everything I asked him to do. So those are he's one. He works for is it JoJo Chalmers right now? JoJo Chambers. Yeah, I think he does.
That's JoJo.
Yeah. So he works with JoJo, and they work.
JoJo he played basketball in Highland Springs. He was good.
Yeah, very good. So
yeah,
JoJo grabbed him after he left St. Aug, and now DJ is working with him. DJ was kind of the ones that really bought in early, and on that team there were some other guys that bought in as well. Another one's Alex Wilson. He played running back. You know, and then we had some linemen that fit in, like Justin Waddy. Justin Waddy is a Tech grad. He's an alpha. You know, he was a center, but he was an undersized center and bought into it and bought into everything that we had and just laid it all on the line for us. He's good friends with the Edmonds brothers. So those are 3 guys in that era. Then you're talking about, I mean, Juwan Carter, Chris Thaxton. Chris Thaxton graduated from college at 19 years old with a business degree. He works with another Hokie alum. He went to UVA Wise, but he works with a Hokie alum now, Van Gresham, for a company that used to be called Calypso. They just got bought out. But, you know, Chris played for our program. He bought in. Makai Becton.
Becton, hold on. You know I'm a lineman. Did you know he could move? Did you know he can move that fast?
Stop. It was easy. Let me tell you something. When I first talked to Makai Becton, when he was in the 8th grade, he told me he wanted to play wide receiver or tight end. I said, dude, you are crazy. You're 14 years old. You're 6'3", 220. You want to play what? He said, yeah, man, I'm a tight end. I'm like, it was almost comical. Like you just laughed. I was laughing inside. I'm keeping a straight face, poker face, but I was laughing inside. This dude is crazy. But then he started moving around, and I was like, maybe he can. But then he started growing too fast. It was like almost an inch a week. Like he was like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". I mean, when he was going into his junior year, he was like 6'7", 340, 350. And I said, man, you are going to be a first-round NFL offensive tackle. And he was like, what? I said, look how much they make. He said, oh, I can do this. I said, yeah, I know. I said, if you're in the first round, I think I showed him Baselli's contract or something crazy like that. But he was still doing the AAU basketball for a while. In the night.
Hold on, pause. Stop right there. Stop right there. You did not do a good job. Because if you had done a good job as a football coach, you would have kept him off the basketball court.
No. Listen.
Man. No. He was I've never seen. Look, and Vic, you had good feet. I don't think you as big as he is. Dog.
Oh no, I'm not. I've been near him. He's huge.
You had good feet, okay? This dude comes out I scouted him. I'm like, okay, he can't get up and down the floor. I ain't worried about him. He's too big. All right. He catches the ball in the paint and drop step. Now, mind you, hold on. I'm at Highland. No. We at Highland Springs. LJ come up. He talking to me. Jim Harbaugh from Michigan is sitting right there. Okay. And I'm like, so what's up, man? Your man, when you gonna get him off the court, man? You know, you don't want him to get hurt, right?
Nah.
As soon as I'm looking at Jim Harbaugh and he's running, and I'm like, there's no way this dude this size can keep running up and down this court. He catches it on the block and he dunks it, and I swear the whole gym shook when he dunked it, man. It was ridiculous. He is a nightmare to play against. He's so big. You can't get around him. But he's quick and he's fast. And that sounds crazy for a dude.
No, I know
so
what
big.
you mean. I know what you mean.
But, man, they would just come down court and throw the ball up in the air. And if he caught it, he was making it. I'm telling you, it's going in.
But Troy, that goes back to, I mean, the culture piece. Like how many? All right, Chuck played how many sports?
Iverson?
Yes.
Yeah, he played 2.
He played 2, but he could play others, but he definitely played 2, football and basketball.
Alonzo Mourning.
I think I don't know if he played football. I don't know. He's a little bit before me.
I thought he played 2.
He probably did because that was the norm back in the day.
And Indian
yeah.
Tony Morrison played both. Yeah, a lot of guys. I mean, I played both.
Michael Vick
he played 3. He played football, baseball, and basketball.
All right, and we just talking about in the state of Virginia, right? So we talking about guys that, you understand where I'm coming from. We know to call their names off the top. So culture-wise, like I'm trying to get as many kids as possible to run track, play basketball, play football, play baseball. Like my starting quarterback, who's going to be the starter at Virginia State this year, we're hoping, right? He played baseball. And everybody was like, after you won a state championship, we didn't think he was going to let him play baseball. But I think it's important, right? So the skill set, you playing basketball, it's feet, it's dancing, it's moving, right? It's learning how to set a pick. It's learning how to take a charge. It's learning how to move laterally. You know what I'm saying? It's learning how to jump. Like, you know, Troy, how many kids you run into that work out and come to try don't know how to jump? You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. He wasn't taking no charges.
No,
because wasn't nobody going in there. But yo, I knew he was. I knew he was going to be a pro. My favorite football players at Bird, because you know all basketball coaches, scrubby football coaches.
Yeah.
Was Rashard. We know everything about football. Was Rashard Ashby? All right, Rock. That's at Tech now.
Yep.
Okay, Rook. I saw when you guys played them. And he played linebacker, and McCott was pulling, and I'm standing right there, like I'm right there. Man, he picked Rashard Ashby up with one hand and threw him off to the side like a dog. I said, "Oh, he first round, and we're gonna lose today."
That was a personal game for him. I mean, it's personal.
You know what game I'm talking about? I know the regional championship, right?
Yeah, in the playoffs.
Yeah. At Highland Springs.
Yeah, he took it personal.
Freezing cold.
Yeah.
Yes, man. Y'all ran the ball behind him, and all he was doing was just throwing people away, man. And I said, this dude, if he could go to the league out of high school, he probably need to go do that because he was that good, man.
He was that good, and I saw him. I went to 2 or 3 of LJ's championships. I went to 2 and watched it on TV, but I went to playoff games as well. And I sat there with my wife, Shanice, and Isaiah, and I remember. Everybody was talking about different people. I said, that guy right there is an animal. And I always give LJ a day to process. I'll text him, and then I'll call him a day or 2 after. And I said, bruh, who is that dude? Because he stood out. And I knew it was between Virginia Tech, Louisville, UVA. He was heavily recruited, obviously. But I'm happy no matter where they go for me. You know, of course, I want the best players in VA or otherwise be the Hokies. But at the same time, we all want these guys to be successful. And I watched him at Louisville. I mean, when I saw him run at the combine and then it was trending all over the world, I said, oh, yeah, he's definitely going first day because it's almost illegal to be that big and move that fast. And he didn't
I seen it. So yeah. I'm not surprised by that. Not surprised at all.
So that was the whole deal, Troy. I mean, those guys, so Makai bought in heavily. Mike Green, he's at JMU right now. You know, you got a lot. Jordan Wall got to play linebacker. We were playing Hermitage, and it was the first championship game in 2015. Well, it was the quarterfinals, I guess, the game before the semifinals. And the defense had played 95 plays. It was almost like that Syracuse game we played in 98 at Virginia Tech. Defense had played 95 plays for various reasons. It wasn't necessarily 3 and out. We were scoring, and, you know, interceptions and kickoff return. The defense had to get right back on the field. And I looked at him when they tied the score up at 35-35, and Jordan Wall said to me, he said, Coach, if I got to play another down, he said, man, just get ready to call the paramedics right now. He said, but for this program and this school, I'll do it. And I looked over and I said, Jordan, we're going to make sure you don't have to play any more downs. And we went down the field and scored. But, I mean, just conversations like that you have in the middle of a game, a kid trying to give you his all, necessarily can't physically, but trying to give it to you. I mean, it speaks volumes about how the kids bought in and what they're trying to do. So that was big. Did I answer
Troy,
the whole question?
Yeah, no, you did. You did. And I appreciate it. This is good. So Troy, same thing for you, man. You know, you coaching today's athlete. Because this is in basketball, you know, it's even, I think, and I've coached both, it's even more challenging to some degree because basketball has become so much more hip and you have the stars that social media is big with basketball. So these kids see instant gratification. How do you get them to buy in? And who also some of the guys you coach that are just ultra talented that are going on?
Well, the buy-in part is we have a standard that we expect. And our program has gotten to the point now where I make it mandatory for all my guys to go to college. You have to come back and visit when you're in town at least one time. If not, I'm coming to get you. All right. So if I see you at the mall and you haven't stopped by the gym and we practicing, then we got a problem. I don't want no t-shirts. You ain't got to call me and say thank you. I don't want none of that. You show your appreciation by giving back. Everything was given to you for you to be as successful as you are. It is mandatory that you give back. They got to come back. So all of our guys that play get to see guys who are in college doing it.
Right.
And those guys who come back will tell stories, and they all tell. Every group comes back and said, "I'm getting softer and soft. I'm getting nicer and nicer." and they be telling stories, man, about stuff that I forgot. I'm like, I did that for real. But that's how we get kids to buy in. And see, for me, I'm not easy to play. I'm not for everybody, and I tell everybody that I'm not the easiest guy to coach to play for. But our program isn't for everybody. But if you buy in and you trust the process speaks for itself. Every senior we've had that chose to has had an opportunity to play college basketball. All right, we've put more kids in college as in this area since I've been here than any other school, private or public. All right, so we take extreme pride in putting our guys at the next level. So it's simple. If you give us everything that you have, we're gonna give you everything that we got, and we're gonna go out of our way to try to help you get to the next level. We don't have to, promote kids and push certain kids via social media. We've had enough success that it kind of speaks for itself. And me, I try to explain to parents, I'm a little more unique than most coaches, where I played high school basketball. I won a state championship. I played college basketball at two different schools. And I coached college basketball, Division I basketball. And I've won a state championship as a high school coach. So if I'm not qualified enough for your child, then this is not the place for you to be.
Right.
But there's nothing your child's going to go through that I haven't gone through. I've been the best player on the team. I sat on the bench. All right. So I know what all of that is like. What happens a lot of times nowadays in basketball, which is different, and one of you guys said it earlier, I want to touch on it. When I played, what the coach said, your parents said, listen to what the coach says.
Right.
You do what the coach said. The coach said you do this, he the coach, you do it. Nowadays, what happens is there's got to be more communication, it seems, where you say, hey, do this. And like you said, LJ, you got to kind of explain the why to why they should do it. You know what I'm saying? Before, I look back at coaches I played for, and I was that dude, the coaches would cuss me out, and I ain't even care. I wouldn't show no emotion. I just sit there, and so that's how they talk. They would just berate you. And I did promise myself that I would never be that kind of coach. But nowadays, you got to kind of do more communicating. Like Coach Bill Foster wasn't going to call me to check up on me to see how I was doing if I had a bad game. He wasn't checking on me. Hey, how's your mom? And look, we got practice at 3. Get here by 2 o'clock. That's right. How times have changed. You got to, now it's just more communication. I'm a big technology fan. I love all the technology that we have. I learned basketball with a VCR. I would tape games, and I would just cut up. I had 2 VCRs, and I would cut them up. That's how I learned how to play. Nowadays, there's so much access via technology that kids can go to YouTube and find their favorite player and emulate what they're doing. So as coaches, we have to adapt to the change. But you get with my people our age in basketball. I often do this in football and in basketball. They talk about, man, kids soft these days. They ain't getting it like we used to get it. Now y'all got trainers. Well, that's true. It's not that the kids are soft. It's just that technology has made everything so much easier for everybody. All right, technology is the issue. For me, I wake up, I'm going to the park. I wasn't no video game dude. I think it was Nintendo. It might have been it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you what I had Nintendo, I had ColecoVision, and I know I had an Atari 2600. Okay?
That's it.
That's it. That was me. So I'm outside. I'm going outside. I'm going to play. Now outside, you did have trainers. You on that basketball court playing against them older guys, they beating you in your head. They telling you what you're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. And then you go work on it. I became a good ball handler and a good passer, not because I wanted to. I used to be a really good shooter. But if I was going to play with the older kids, they told me I couldn't shoot. They said, look, you dribble the ball up the court, pass it to me right here, and you better not mess it up. If you turn the ball over, you got to see me. Now, I want to play. So I'm going to do what they do. And so my game changed a little bit towards that way. And that's just how it goes. But kids nowadays, you don't have that. You have trainers. And I hear a lot of negative things about people who talk about trainers and this, that, and the third. Well, that's your job as a parent to do the research on that trainer. Because all my parents do their research on me before they come to school. They can tell me everything I've done. So it's your job to do the best you can to get the best training you can for your child if you want to go that route. So I don't think technology is a bad thing. Communication, kids don't talk. I've seen kids sit down at a table and they will text back and forth to each other instead of talking. And I'm sitting there. It's different. And I think what we got to do a better job of is we got to learn to adapt and evolve, because all these sports are evolving. Think about football. LJ, when you played cornerback, you could bump and push and grab. I saw you doing all that. Yeah. You could do all that.
Not anymore.
Nowadays, no, you can't. Just like in basketball in the 90s, everybody talk about Michael Jordan and LeBron. You bring up the Knicks and the bad boys. Basketball was so different back then. It was so physical. All right, so you go in the lane, you're going to get hit. You get knocked down. You're supposed to get back up, check the ball back up, and keep playing. But it ain't like that now. So you got to get out of that mindset. You got to evolve. And I think that's why so many coaches kind of mess themselves up a little bit, because they don't evolve. I think the ones who are good, like LJ's, I love watching his teams play because they look they look different than anybody that I'm watching, any other high school team playing. They look like a college team.
They're organized.
It's not just the players. People always say, well, you win because you got the players. Well, good players want to play for good coaches.
Right.
That's what it is. And as a coach, it's your job to showcase your players' talent. It's your job to put them in the best position possible to be successful. So I think that's what we have been fortunate enough to learn as coaches. And I think that's why we've had the success that we've had.
And players, you had guys, anybody you want to, you highlight, you have some talent.
Oh, that's easy for me. The most important player in my program is Kenny Williams. And the reason Kenny Williams is not because he was the most successful guy. Now, I was talking to another coach. We were joking, and the reason I say it is when I first came, Kenny was a 9th grader. And I've never had like a big time player come to Bird. We've never had those kind of guys. All right. We kind of got to develop our guys through our process. So we get good players. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad. We get good players, and they just kind of develop. Kenny would be the closest thing that you could call like a big time prospect. All right. And my first year, he was being recruited by all the private schools. Now I'm catching it. I mean, we winning about 20, and teams like, why you ain't about 30? And every game we lose, you don't know what you're doing, and all this. So I think I lost 3 games that year. And so the season ends, Robert Johnson transfers to Benedictine. And I'm hearing all these rumblings about Kenny leaving. And so I talked to Kenny's dad. And I said, look, man, if y'all going to leave, I understand that. I'd appreciate if you tell me up front. But it's 20 points a game out here for Kenny if he wants. And his dad said, Coach, we ain't going nowhere. And from that point on, our program took off. If Kenny leaves, I'm probably not at LC Bird right now. Just for the simple fact, I don't think we would have had enough talent. But he set the tone for our program to where the giving back part started with him. Like, he's affiliated with the Spurs now. He came back to a practice. All right? He keeps up with us on social media. He'll communicate with the kids via text or whatever, just to make sure everything is right. And he was the one to kind of set the foundation for what we were doing. So he would be the most important person for my success. CJ Miles is one of my assistant coaches now. He just graduated from Roanoke College. He was one of my favorite players. If Kenny was the best player we've had, CJ Miles was the best shooter that we've had. And again, I've been lucky, man. I had Pinky Wiley, who's at Delaware State, Mario Haskett, who's at Harvard. The best part, Cam Henry, who's at a school a lot of people aren't familiar with. Can you see me, Vic?
Yeah, I got you.
Cam Henry is probably going to be a professional, and he's at Lincoln. Giles Webster's at Fayetteville State. All of these guys have played college basketball. Javante Reddick, who's now an English teacher at Roth Middle School, he went to Hampton-Sydney. Ty Wallace went to A&T. The best part about these guys, they weren't just good basketball players. They were good kids, man. And when you're dealing with good kids, they have high expectations of themselves. And because they have high expectations of themselves, they want to be coached. They want to be pushed. They want to be challenged. And those kids are the reason for the success that I had. Yeah, I got a great staff. I got a above and beyond. My staff is above and beyond. But those kids, man, make it so much easier. My son is a bird basketball aficionado. And it's all because these guys spent so much time with him and were just good people. And they didn't have to do it. One of his favorite players, Malik Johnson, transferred. He left me. And he was one of the nicest kids. He ended up playing at Canisius. He was one of the nicest guys to my son. And they're the reason that he plays basketball. They're the reason why playing at Bird is so important for him, because of them. He'll come home and be like, yo, Dad, I can't let Mario down, man. I can't let Pinky down. Pinky and them did this against this team. So those guys are such good character guys, man. And that's why we've had the success we've had.
Talk about coaching your son, Troy. Both you guys, you and Loren, I coach my son. He's 8th grade. And I know the blessings that come and the challenges and the headaches at times, but that's me and Isaiah. But at the same time, how is it coaching your son, Yuri? I mean, because I saw his mixtape he posted on the gram a while back, and, you know, I've been a fan of Yuri. I mean, I think he's got a great future, but, you know, I'm an outsider. I'm Uncle Vic. Like, for you, how is it coaching your son? Like, because it's one thing to coach all these great players and these other guys you guys connect with, but there's something about coaching your son. Troy, how is it for you?
It's fun. I'm gonna tell you why. I have a lot of friends. Well, growing up, I always played on teams where the dad was the coach of another player, so I got to see what that was like. And the first thing was, I didn't want to make him do stuff that he didn't want to do, because I had friends, their dads would push them so hard that to this day they don't even have relationships. You know, when my dad passing away, that father-son dynamic was important for me because my dad was perfect to me. So I didn't want to force him to play. And so what I did research. And with the research, I created a plan for him. And each year, I just upped the ante. And we were just gearing towards high school basketball. Now, you're going to get all the, you just letting him play because he's your son and you getting all, you're going to get that. So if you ain't ready for that, then you can't do that. So, and I explained that to him. And I said, you know, you're gonna have to have very thick skin. You're gonna have to be tough because nobody's gonna give you credit for anything that you do. You can't do things looking for credit from people. All right. And I tell my team, I say, yes, my son is a part of the team, but you got to understand something. When practice is over, no matter how well you practice or how poorly you practice, you get to go home. You ain't gonna hear my voice. He don't get that. So when he comes home, if he had a bad practice, at some point we're gonna communicate about that. You know, and everybody was like, you gotta leave at the gym. Well, I ain't that good at doing that yet. I'm working on it.
Neither am I.
And it's me. But the thing you gotta understand is, and I'm learning, your son, you're not gonna holler and scream at your son in a practice the same way. Like, first of all, you're not gonna treat every kid the same way.
No.
Okay, as a player, you could cuss me out and I'm good. I'm gonna keep on doing what I'm supposed to do. But the next player may not. Okay. But I'm not gonna holler and scream at him all practice every single day, and then I'm gonna let somebody else get away with some stuff. Okay, you can't do that. All right. What I learned was I was being too hard on him, focusing too much on his mistakes, as opposed to paying more attention to the positive things he was doing. Now, he started for me as a ninth grader. I did not expect that to happen. I didn't. I knew he would play. And in the fall, he had a really good fall. And as the season started, in practice, everything we do is competitive, and I chart everything. His teams always won. Regardless of what team I put them on, they always won. So we had 2 scrimmages, and he had 17 the first scrimmage and 21 the second scrimmage. I mean, he's doing what I've never seen him do before. So my assistant coaches, I'm going back and forth. What y'all think? What y'all think? And I had one assistant coach that said, look, you're responsible for him. You coach him. All right. You watch him. And if I'm going too far, you just kind of tap me and let me know. And he was like, yo, he got to start. He got to play. If you want us to win, because the things he was doing in practice, he was rating out the high with 1 or 2 in everything we were doing. And what I started realizing was it was because he had been around what we do so much. He knew everything. Where this stuff may have been new for some other kids, he knew what was going on. He knew what the expectation was. So it's hard if you pay attention to outside people. But again, as athletes, we've always had people tell us what we could not do. Always. So if you can block it out as a coach, now sometimes it's hard as a dad now. You ain't gonna let nobody to go crazy on your son. Hold on. But it's also a great learning experience for him too, because you got to learn to stand up for yourself, and you got to learn how to deal with criticism. And I explained to him, I said, you're going to be the most criticized person on this court, and you got to deal with that. And if you can't, you got to sit down. Now, he wasn't perfect. When I was a freshman, he went up and down, but I thought he did a good job. I was happy with what he did. I know my coaches were like, there would be times where they're like, hey man, why you take him out or put him back in? You know, and I really, it was hard at first. But the thing that I always try to do with all my players, what's best for the team? What's best for the team? Anytime I have a doubt about something I want to do, I'm going to do what's best for the team. Because I'm not trying to get him he's not going to get a college scholarship as a freshman. I'm not promoting him for that. If anybody thought that's crazy. But if I do what's best for the program, then everything works itself out. That's how I did with all my players, and that's what I'm doing with him too. So.
Yeah. And LJ, before I ask you the same question, funny story about everybody ain't for you or Troy coaching. You know, my sons knows both your sons is race against your sons in track, LJ, and I've sent my son down to Troy's camp for 2 years, 2 different summers, and he's hooped with you and he's going to the camp. So Isaiah loved Troy's camp. He loves both you guys as coaches, and he's seen you guys coach. But I always ask him, you know, like after he comes back from a camp, I say, how was it? You know, he'll tell me different stories. You know how guys, young men talk in spurts. They don't talk to you off jump. Right. So Isaiah's telling me a story. He's like, yeah, man, Troy's got a squad, and But he said, he's no nonsense. I said, oh yeah, Troy don't play. He said, no, no, no. Like the cafeteria was a mess. He stopped practice and he made all his team run. They had a condition. And then he pulled out some bricks and had them running with bricks. I said, what? He said, oh yeah.
He wasn't supposed to see that.
Remember, he was hanging with Yuri.
Dang.
Yeah, so he was with Yuri.
That's a good thing, man.
So he
set a foundation, man.
So Isaiah was looking like, his eye, because at that time he was young. I mean, he's still young. He's not even 14 until actually next week. But he was talking about it. He was like, man, and they were mad. I said, but how did they handle it? He said, oh, they kept the cafeteria clean. And he was like, and they didn't say nothing afterwards. So, it's funny because as a coach, you're always being looked at. And my son just came back with he just was wide-eyed talking about, Coach Troy ain't play. I said, nah, he don't. But Loren, coaching.
Great. That's great inside info.
Hey, man, I'm telling you. And I went to Lowe's. Last year looking for bricks. You know what I'm saying? But let
me tell you something. Them bricks now, that's an old school thing. But it used to be we used to have to carry them. You had to carry the brick. Not what I do. I put tape around the brick now. But you had to do defensive slides with the bricks, and them bricks would cut your hands up. And so if you dropped it, oh man,
on the court.
Now we talking about. What? It's old school now. On the court?
I can only imagine.
No, first of all, you ain't getting no water.
No.
Okay. Doors closed, windows shut. All right. Every mistake you make, you on the line, and you picking up bricks. If you ain't picking up bricks, you pushing tiles. That's just the way it goes.
So now, Troy, they have this thing called some hands. You put gloves on, they got weights on the hands.
Yeah.
That's technology.
Yeah,
That's the technology. You talking about the technology, like you don't even carry bricks anymore. You got gloves, you put in your hand, you dribble with the gloves, you run with the gloves. It's a different thing, man.
Everybody's sexy, man.
Everybody's
sexy.
Absolutely.
LJ, coaching your son, how was it? Because he was on JV, right?
Right.
But you coached him though, right?
I mean, he played DB, right? Yeah. And so Troy, we'll have great stories here because they're both in the 9th grade right now, right? Mm-hmm. So class of 2023, you and I both be able to talk. It'd be fun. Write a book. We need to write a book. But everything that Troy said is true, right? The thick skin. Like it started for Braylon. I currently live in Verana's district. So that's my rival. So he was getting it in middle school, right? He would wear a t-shirt to school. He would get it from teachers, janitors, administrators, students. So, dude, you gotta have thick skin. Troy already said, right? No need to even repeat it. So thick skin is one. I'm just like Troy. We get in the car, I just gotta be quiet. Cause I'm talking. And I'm talking about what happened in practice. Like I wanna know, right? And I had to stop because I was telling them everything that I saw incorrect. Like I can watch him from a distance, do the DB drills, and I've done them, and I can do them in my sleep. So when he's not doing it right, like I'm on him. But I had to stop. But I'm not there yet. I'm just like Troy. Like, I need you to know this because this is not right. You understand? The one dynamic Troy didn't mention that I'll mention, and I don't know if Troy's wife does this, but Lauren's wife does this. Playing JV, they have not lost a game in 5 years. Our JV program hasn't. Okay, so they're 50-0, something ridiculous, 51-0.
You guys put 99 on one team.
Yeah, so it's something ridiculous. All right. So
we ain't gonna talk about that. Let's keep going.
So we practice on Thursdays, okay? And you practice on Thursday, and it's an away game. So my wife is getting to the game, and she was like, "It's a waste of time." I'm like, "Why?" Well, like, what's the problem? She said, "Don't come over here. If y'all not finished practice, don't come." I'm like, "What?" He's out of the game. Like they up 30. He's not playing anymore. It's the first quarter. So when is he gonna play? Like, why is he playing JV football? This is my wife. Like, why is he playing JV football? Like, he's not playing. The backups get more reps than he get. Like, what is the problem? Like, and I'm like, listen. I said, it's a process. This is not. It's not a TV dinner. This is Thanksgiving dinner. It is a process. So, but he ain't developing. How's he gonna develop? How he gonna play for you if he don't play JV? I said, obviously he's starting, so he's pretty good, or he has some knowledge. Just like Troy said, he's been around long enough to know what to do and how to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gonna play early, and then you're beating somebody by a lot, so his game stops. So he just has to continue to develop. But that's the conversation that I get, pillow talk, like, is he in the right position? Is he doing the right thing?
The moms know everything about sports now. They know. Why you ain't letting him shoot more? Why you take him out? He was hot. You ain't even giving him the ball.
I mean, so I'm with you, Troy. See, you didn't mention that aspect. And it's not a negative thing. It's just all right, when I had a daughter, like I think you have a daughter too, right, Troy? But she's older.
Hold on.
How old is
she play too.
She's younger. She's hoop too.
She's a year. Yeah. She play.
So
and it's the same conversation.
She's the same age as Isaiah.
Oh, she's 14, 13.
She's 13.
Okay, so when you have a daughter, you get a little bit, I guess, more compassion, or you understand. Right?
Yes.
Right? You're dealing with a different dynamic, and that's what coaching girls track at Glenver taught me. All right, how to maneuver through this thing a little bit better, because it's a different dynamic. You're dealing with a female, you coach, you can't coach hard, you gotta coach hard, you know what I'm saying? How do you talk? What do you say? So even dealing with my wife. I mean, my wife is from Connecticut, right? She loves basketball. Her son's not playing basketball, he's playing football. I married this football dude. I'm learning the game. I don't understand why you doing this. Does he play nickel? Does he play the dime? Like that part of the deal of coaching your own son, Vic, that is the hard part. Like,
it is.
Yeah, coaching them is easy. I mean, again, he's got to be tough skinned. He's got to understand when I'm raising my voice, when I'm asking him to do something, like I'm asking him to do it, like right now, right? So you kind of get that dynamic already in place. It's my dad, okay? But the coming home, having a conversation. So what we supposed to do? What we supposed to do if he only playing one quarter? I mean, just ride it out. I mean, that's what everybody else doing as a starter. Just ride it out. It's gonna work.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's funny, people, and even if it's not your wife talking about your child, I get parents sometimes who say, well, like I like to always move a young kid up to varsity just to prepare him for it,
Absolutely.
even if he's not gonna play a lot.
So he can see.
Yeah, because it's different. Practice. When you're practicing against good people that's beating your head in every day, it shows you and prepares you for that next level. Right. You dominating on the JV or you getting your numbers on the JV, it's still a transition. My first game this year, LJ, I had 8 sophomores. We'll put it this way. I had one senior who had any varsity experience this year. We played Huguenot. I didn't have anybody else who had played.
Right.
Nobody. Okay. And you kind of get used to how you come out for warm-ups and you do it. I come out for warm-ups and I ain't seen this in years. I see deer in headlights.
Everybody's looking crazy, yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're supposed to be a superstar. What you nervous about now for? But see, and see, my son was more accustomed because he practiced with the varsity all the time. So He was a little more accustomed to that. He was a little more ready for that. So you do get that. I get it. But parents have to understand when you have a program, it's a process. And college coaches love recruiting players from winning programs.
Right.
Yes.
You can go to a school and average 20 points a game and you don't get out the first round of review. Go ahead. Or you can come to me and average. I've never had a kid average more than 15 points a game.
Right.
Never. And as good as Kenny was, I had a kid, Charles Spalding, who's at Winthrop. He scored 19 straight points in 2 minutes in the state championship game we lost. He averaged, I think maybe 14, 15. But he trusted the process. Like with you guys are so good, you ain't gonna have a lot of freshmen and sophomores really playing major roles because you're a program.
Right.
But if people would just trust the process, they'll see the end result. But it's just, and I get it. I get why parents don't want to trust it because parents are so involved nowadays. And I do not fault them at all for that, but they are so involved in it, they want it right now. And that goes back to the technology and the immediate gratification with everything. Everybody, the kids nowadays want everything right now.
Right.
But it don't work that way.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you both. I only have really one more question, and I get this asked when I talk about you guys a lot on Twitter, but even when I'm out in different places and I talk about coaches I admire, or, you know, the coaching fraternity, even on a volunteer basis, everyone is familiar. You know the great coaches in your respective professions. Do you, and again, I know you have to be careful in answering this, but I want you guys to answer it honestly. Is there going to come a time, Troy, I'll start with you, and Loren, you can answer afterwards. Troy, will you return to college, or have you, I mean, I'm sure you've been offered jobs, but people ask me all the time, are you guys both going to coach college? Because obviously your success on the high school level is impeccable. You guys both build programs. Will there come a time that you will go to college, come back to college, Troy?
Well, you know, I get one or two conversations, we'll call them conversations, about going back to college every year. And I was fortunate enough to do it before, so I know what it's like. Like LJ was talking about with the Bears for the 19,000. Me at that age, I probably would have jumped on that and just been like, whatever. I figured out, you know what I'm saying? But he was smart. He was smart in not doing it. So, having done college before, it has to be the right situation. I have to work for someone who I trust, who has my best interest at hand as well. It's not one of those things where I'm 20, 21, 22, and I'm just trying to get in the business now. I mean, I got a family, you know, so it's got to be a good situation. Yeah, I do talk to coaches, and they're always good conversations, but it has to be a good situation that you know, is good for me and my family.
Yeah. Loren?
I mean, Troy said it. I mean, that is the number one dynamic to supersede them all. You know, and I can talk personally about it. I mean, I've been offered jobs, you know, Norfolk State, you know, offered jobs with Virginia Tech. Had a lot of conversations with people about head coaching jobs on the Division III level. But it's got to be right, and even, you know, these high paying high school jobs in other states. It's just got to be a right situation. And most recently, you know, the one at Virginia Tech. I mean, I would have loved to do the job, but my wife's got to find a job. I got to sell a house in Richmond. I got to move to a place where the cost of living is higher than it is right now than where I live. I got to make sure I get 2 young men who play football in the right schools, where people are going to take care and refine their skills. I got to make sure I got a young daughter. She's got to be in place. You know, my son is in a program where he's going to graduate with his associate's degree. My oldest is. My youngest son, who's going into the 8th grade, wants to be in that same program. I got to find a program that's similar to that. When you talk about the education piece, the one thing that trumps all of those things, and I've told various people this, if what you're going to pay me is going to change the dynamic of my lifestyle, then we can have a conversation, right? But if you're not changing those things as an adult, right? Every fan that said, oh, he doesn't want to take a job because it's not an on the field position. Right now, I don't have to be on the field. If I'm developing young men and helping young men become successful, then I'm happy with that. I don't have a problem with that. If it's an off the field position, I'm good. Because you know what that means at 5 o'clock? I'm going home and I'm eating dinner with my family, right? I may extend some of those days a little bit longer, but it ain't going to be every day. Like when you're coaching, you know, I've seen Troy scouting games, right? When you're not coaching, you ain't got to scout no game. You understand where I'm coming from? So player development or something like that, we may have programs put in place that you may have to run a program and do something like that. And that's the job that it was with Virginia Tech. But it wasn't something that was conducive to the family. It was, you know, and Troy said it, that's the end all to be all. And I say this, so Troy's lost his father. I lost my mother and my stepmother, right? Both to cancer. when you're sitting on the front row, it's only a couple people with you at the funeral. It's not a whole bunch of people. It's a lot of people behind you. There's not a lot of people on the front row. So the people that are going to be on the front row at my funeral are the people that I want to take care of. Now, I know that's deep. That's like, whoa, he went way out with that. But that's how I carry everyday life. Those are the people that I'm concerned with every day. Now, I'll do anything for Vic. I'll do anything for Troy. Talk to y'all on a regular basis. Other people that I bang with like that, Sean Sullivan, you know what I mean? Hey, the boys club, 12-15. Like, it's a lot of different things. A lot of people that I function with like that. But for the grand scheme of it, like when it comes to making a decision, yeah, it sounds good to be back at Virginia Tech. Yeah, it sounds good to be a head coach. Yeah, it sounds good to coach college sports. But if it's not going to change the dynamic of my family, then I'm not doing it right now.
Yeah.
When these boys get out of school and they're finished, if the wife looks at me and says, let's take a chance, then we take a chance, right? But then you're only dealing with one child in school, right, who doesn't play football, who runs, and you can run anywhere in America. You understand where I'm coming from? Like, running is on the time. It's not developing in the sport. Then we can take a chance and we can do something like that when we're in position to do so. I'm always intrigued by the college game. I'm always intrigued by the professional game. I would like to do it. I would like to be a part of it. But if it doesn't work itself out to happen, you know, right now or today or tomorrow or next year or the year after, then I'm going to coach my butt off at Highland Springs and try to win as many championships as I possibly can.
I know you both will. Any final thoughts as we wrap up? You know, anything you want to offer coaches or players or even parents that may see this video? Any regrets you've learned from? Any final thoughts? Troy, I'll start with you. Anything you want to share before we wrap up?
This is a lot of fun, man. And kids have to understand the bonds that you develop through sports. They last you a lifetime, you know, and so you got to make the most of and appreciate those. And I hope the people at Highland Springs appreciate what LJ is doing, because I was there before when it wasn't like that. And he's got something going right now that is big time. And we are all, I know I coach basketball, but we're all trying to emulate that. We won 3 at Bird, and we're trying to copy them as well. So we're just trying to keep being the best that we can. But as coaches, please appreciate the opportunities that you have, because everybody wants to be in the position that you are in.
Right.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Loren?
I mean, Troy said it. He took words right out of my mouth as I was thinking them. For young kids, I mean, especially being recruited, gonna play any sport, basketball, football. When you get on campus, find somebody, you know, when you're visiting, find older guys and listen to what they say. I mean, Vic got to Virginia Tech before me. Troy got to Virginia Tech before me. The majority of the guys that I hung out with were older than I was. You know, I roomed with Cornell Brown. I listened to what Tony Morrison had to say. I listened to Ace Custis. There was, and I'm gonna share this real quick. Troy, we were coming out of Squires one time, and Troy grabbed me. We were on the bottom of the ramp, right there on the side of the street. You don't even remember this, Troy. It was late night, and he was like, "LJ, what's up? What's going on?" I said, "Man, I don't know. I ain't feeling it." He was like, "You ain't feeling what?" Right? And the conversation went into motivation of why I need to be there. Why? And you asked me, Troy, you don't even remember this. And this is why I'm fond of you. You said, what are you going to do if you go back home? Boom. And that was the night after a party in Flyers, right? He was like, what are you going to do if you go back home? And that's that period of time where feeling homesick, like really don't want to be there, really don't want to go through the grind, don't want to wake up early in the morning, don't want to go to class, don't want to walk across campus. And it takes one person to say, what you going to do if you go back home? What else you going to do? You probably don't even remember it, Troy. It was coming down the ramp. It wasn't one of them times we was in that, you know, getting down. It was just a regular evening. It was a cool, calm evening that night. And what you going to do? What are you going to do if you go back home? But those are the older guys on campus that imparted in me, which makes me now, okay, want to impart in younger kids and make sure they don't make any of the mistakes that we made. That's one. And number two, to any coach that's watching it, like what Troy is doing, what I've had the opportunity to do, those are learned experiences. It is not an overnight process. Like to go from Highland Springs playing to go to William Fleming, right? Or start your own business, go to William Fleming, coach girls, leave the girls side, go to Hanover, and then be talked about while you're at LC Bird and people trying to like sabotage what you're trying to do. Like that is a process and it's not overnight. You know, a lot of people ask me on a regular basis, hey man, can you share with me what you do and how you do it? It's 20 years of experience. I can't give you 20 years in 30 minutes. I can give you 20 years in 20 years, right? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like your mentor, like you mentioned George Lancaster. Like you asked George Lancaster, you know what I'm saying, for advice. When I got to Highland Springs, you know who I asked for advice? George Lancaster. Like he had been through it, right? And then I had to go sit in his office while he ate the sandwich with all the onions on it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and listen to him talk, and it was an everyday thing. And I got to Highland Springs in 08. It was 7 years before we won our first state championship. It was 7 years of talking to Coach Lancaster and asking him questions and finding out and picking his brain. That wasn't an overnight thing because he had did it and been successful in the same school that I wanted to be successful at. So nothing is overnight. It's a process. And for parents, when you vet coaches, like trust them. Like you trust people you don't know with your child. Like trust people that have been through the process and done it with other people's children. And the last thing I'm gonna say this to you, Troy, like you coach everybody else's son. My high school coach said it to me. He said, you coach everybody else's son, coach your own, and don't care what nobody else say. I know you was gonna do that anyway, but like when he said it to me, he was like, forget what everybody else say. He like, play your son. If your son earns it, play him. Because you coach everybody else's child. Now it's time to coach your child and enjoy it and coach at the same time. So, I mean, those are things that I would share with anybody.
I appreciate you both, man. That's going to be our show for the day, man. But I mean, at the end of the day, I tell you this all the time, LJ, Troy, I talk to you guys all the time. You know, LJ, you were my teammate, Troy. You know, you and Laura, y'all family, Kim, LJ, everybody, your sons. But I appreciate the legacy you guys are living, the impact you guys are having, not just in the 804, but throughout the state with the kids you coach. I appreciate both you guys jumping on today and shedding insight about your legacy, your journey, and your path to success and learning from your mistakes. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. Both of you guys. I appreciate you so much. I know a lot of people are going to love this interview, man. Also, like I was telling Shanice last night, you get 3 Virgos, it's going to be special. I was telling Shanice and Sydney last night, when you get 3 Virgos, it's going to be powerful, man. So, you guys.
Thank you, man. This is cool.
I appreciate you both, man. Hopefully, when everything gets done with COVID, when the season gets back going, I wish you guys much success as usual. Keep changing lives and keep leaving a great legacy, man. I appreciate you guys.
You do the same.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.